This is the Superconscious Sisterhood and Friends podcast. We are a group of female coaches working with women from all over the world. We work with our clients to help them create a life they love, become the predominant creator in their own reality, step into their true nature and purpose, and live in health and vitality. In this podcast, I talk all things superconscious with the other coaches, and sometimes I'll have guests too. Join us as we talk personal development, hormones, motherhood, and anything else in between that comes up in the moment. So thanks for joining us this week. I've got Bri again, the director of Superconscious Sisterhood, and we are going to get down to talking about some things that are going on in our lives and just whatever comes up in the moment, I guess. So how have you been?
How have I been? I've been good. I'm at my parents' house at the moment. Yeah, I came down here for an event for my sister's birthday, and it's actually really funny. I feel like I do want to talk on this because at the start I was just completely like, no, I don't want to come. I don't want to do it. And there's a part of me that still feels like it's important for us to honor that within ourselves. And I think, it's like if you're not willing to say no to the things that you don't want to do, then, it's like, how do you create a life that you love? And so, yeah, I really was sitting in this space of like, do I just honor that doesn't feel like something that I want to do? And then I ended up landing in a space just because, well, my new car is here and I had to drop off my dad's ute. And there was a few things that had to be done anyway. So I was like, oh, do I just come? And the people pleaser in me was like, yes, just go and do all the. And it's so funny because you can watch. And I think as you up level, it's like the old parts of you, yes, they do fall away, but they're still kind of alive in you, but you can separate from it, And it was like, I was like witnessing taking super conscious perspective and witnessing the conversation between old me that was like, oh, well, you just should. And I hate the word should, but old me definitely lived in that world. And then new me, or almost too hardcore, was like, well, if it doesn't feel like a yes, say no, And then I ended up landing in this space of I get to choose what this looks like, I get to come, and I don't want to be away from my little girl for very long, but she's excited to go and play with her cousins. So, she can do that. I can go and get super overwhelmed by so many people that were there. And then I get to choose to leave, and yeah, so I went to the races, which is something that I haven't done in a really long time. And that even just brings up a little bit of shame about oh, why are you going to the races? And I think, I don't know, who did I speak to about this the other day? Oh, a girlfriend, actually, in another podcast, about the whole cancel culture and the whole, when people just jump on that, I guess, bandwagon of this is good and this is bad and this is right and this is wrong. And there's no room for, I guess, gray, or there's no room for can it just be what it is without a label?
Yeah.
Anyway, I went to the races. It was really fun. I had a nice day. If anyone follows me on socials, you'll see that, yeah, I've quite a few people, so many people. I cried multiple times at this event. They're happy tears. But yeah, people just coming up and I guess I had created this idea in my head that I don't want to be around people from my past because I didn't want to be the version of myself that I've been. But I'm not that. And I think, it may be, I don't know, we've really just dived right in and I'm just rambling, but I'm not who I was. And I'm so anchored and solid in who I am now that doesn't really happen. I think there's such a fear within me, which is interesting to witness and interesting just to unpack, I guess. Yeah, this fear of reverting to an old wounded version of me, that I kind of avoid being in places that version of me existed. But this weekend was a really beautiful reminder that I don't exist in that way anymore. That's not who I am. and I can show up in these places as me. And yeah, like we were just speaking off camera, that it's inspiring people, and that people recognize that there is a different way. And yeah, like my cousin grabbed me by the shoulders and he's like, Bri, I need to tell you something. And then he just like looked me dead in the eye, like he's got really piercing blue eyes. And he's like, you are the best mother I know. And he just like
Oh,
recognized all of these beautiful things that, you know, is my truth and is what I'm choosing to do and choosing to show up and be, you know, the mum that I think all of our children deserve, but you know, obviously my daughter deserves. And yeah, it was just, there was just so many beautiful moments that I was so not expecting. But yes, I'm good.
yeah.
Just
Oh, that sounds lovely. That sounds really lovely. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, for me, I've been feeling really tired and sort of overwhelmed with a lot of the energy shifts that are going on at the moment.
Mm.
But I've had a lot of joy in working on my garden and putting my seedlings out and creating abundance through, through sort of that way. Like, for example, I had a tomato slice from a takeaway chicken burger that my sister got me there quite, about a month or so ago. And at the time, I thought, oh, I'm going to plant these seeds from this one tomato slice and see what happens. So I did. And I got 26 tomato plants from one slice of tomato. And I just thought it's just such a great analogy for life. In there is so much abundance all around us that we close our eyes to, when you can get one tomato slice and potentially now that would go on to make another 10 or 12 whole tomatoes each. So it's just amazing.
Yeah,
So
incredible. Yes, I love that.
plus it's
Yeah, and
fun to grow things. Sorry.
no, don't be sorry. I think that's the thing. It's like we're so used to just doing what we do, and we're so used to just living in that automated way. And like you said, like when you actually stop to look, like abundance is everywhere. But you know, most of us are sitting in these beliefs that life is hard and things are scarce. Like we have such a scarcity mindset at the moment, and they're really hammering it at us, aren't they, from all angles?
Yeah.
But like you said, like one beautiful slice of tomato and you've got what, 26 plants, and then that they grow and then they produce lots of tomatoes, and that, you know, it's like the abundance is
Yeah,
infinite.
exponential.
Yeah.
Exponential tomatoes, and for example, I've done a load of bell pepper seeds, and I've got like 80 odd seedlings that have seeds that have sprouted. So that's potentially like 80 plants, which I'll give away loads of those plants because there's no way I can fit them in my garden. And then, I was making dinner yesterday, and the aubergine, they don't normally have seeds in them, but this one was like really fully seeded, like mature seeds. So that was like another 80 plants. And I was just
Wow.
like,
Wait,
I
just
bought
to
seeds
like,
and stuff as well, but it's just
yes.
crazy. So,
Aubergine is what we call eggplant, I think.
oh yeah, sorry. Aubergine is
Right?
eggplant. Yes.
I just,
Yeah.
I just had to, just to clarify, anyone who's listening from different parts of the world.
Oh yeah.
Yes, eggplant,
And
cool.
I like to call it courgette, but you may know it as winter squash or zucchini.
Or zucchini, yes.
But
Yum.
I also call it courgette because it's funny, play on zucchini and courgette. So I like to say, oh, my courgettes.
That's
So
funny.
but yeah, it's just
Um,
fun, and it's just fun to, even though I don't get a lot of sun, as you probably know here, it's just fun to watch everything starting to grow and take shape, and know that in a few more weeks I'll have like so much greenery and life in my garden, and chili plants and peppers and everything everywhere, and then I'll be doing my maintenance to make sure the slugs aren't having too much of a feast. And it's just fun. It's just fun and enjoyable, and it's like growing a plant or something from seed is just like it's the best analogy of creation that I can think of, aside from
Mm.
actually, like having a child like you have done with growing a whole baby and stuff. It's just amazing. And anyone can do it. You just need soil, water, and a bit of light, and a bit of
Mm.
patience, a bit of
Mm.
love, and it can happen. And it's a great analogy of the creation process, because you can do that with anything, any idea that you have, anything that you desire to bring to fruition, as we always say. Anyone can do that. It's just having that focus and that uh, you're just going to give it a go, see what happens. And some of the seeds will grow into plants and some won't. But that's like
Yes.
life, isn't it?
Yes. I think it's even, I love this analogy, and I really am excited that we're talking about it. And I think it's important to speak to what seeds we're planting, because, you plant a bell pepper seed or you plant an eggplant seed. It doesn't matter what you do after you've planted that seed. Doesn't matter how you nurture it. Doesn't matter if you speak to it every day and say, you're a carrot, you're a carrot. Like, the
Yeah,
plant that grows from that is the seed that's planted. And I think to,
yeah,
like, I guess, really dive into this analogy, it's like, what seeds are we planting? Like,
mm,
if you're not consciously deciding in this metaphor of life what seeds that you're planting, if you're planting seeds of scarcity, like we spoke about before, if you're planting seeds of fear and worry and negativity and comparison and all of these things that most of us are so caught up in this day and age, the only plants that can grow from those seeds is more of that. And it just
yeah,
perpetuates. And like you said, it's like, it's the never ending cycle of growing more and more and more. But
mm,
can you be mindful and really intentional about what seeds that you're really planting in your everyday, and in the way that you speak and in the things that you think about? And, you know, I guess to circle back to a beautiful freebie that we offer, if you are wanting to be more intentional about that, and we can put it in the show notes. Thank you, Kelly. We have a really beautiful, powerful morning practice that will start you planting the seeds of the things that you actually want to grow in your life, instead of the things that are just, I guess I like to say, knee jerk reaction, or,
yeah,
automatic, or what we've been kind of coerced in a very bombarded way of media and social media and noise and like culture and all of these things that really have us focused towards planting these seeds that we don't want to grow. Can you take 10, 15 minutes in the morning to, you know, nurture nurture the soil that you have and plant the seeds that you want to grow?
yeah,
So yeah.
exactly. It's like nurturing yourself, and it's like it's also when you do have the thoughts around the things that you don't want more of in your life, instead
Mm.
of focusing on those still, it's almost like recognize that you're thinking of those things and let them go as well, because it's okay that your brain slips back into this negative thinking sometime, because we're all human and we're all conditioned that way. And it's only when we start to focus on what it is that we want to create and try to change how we're thinking all the time that we start to move
Mm.
away from those thoughts as much. But you're still going to
Mm.
get them thoughts occasionally. And the trick is to not be, oh my God, I thought something bad. The world is going to end. Oh, I'm such a terrible person, and just let it escalate and feel guilt and shame and stuff from what's happened. And instead, I'm just letting that go now. I'm letting it go. And it doesn't matter that I thought that. Let's refocus actually. And if we really drill down into what it is that we're thinking, is it actually true what we're thinking? Why are we giving the power to it when actually, if we really looked at it logically, it's not necessarily true or proven? So we
Mm.
can even bring logic into it as well as intuition to change our mindset when we're focusing on the wrong things. But the truth is just not to give yourself such a hard time all the time. You're
Yes.
just
I
human.
think I remember hearing this somewhere, and I think it's such a beautiful reminder, like so many people are like, oh, you have to be so careful of what you think on. But, thoughts don't manifest. Because imagine, and this was the analogy, it's like not everything that you think turns into reality. Because imagine what it would be like if you went past
Freaking crazy it would be.
Imagine if you went past a school. Like, imagine if you walked past a school, like a teenage boy, if it was an all boys school. Imagine the crazy things that would be created around that area if
Yeah.
all thoughts manifested. And this is what we really teach. And I think this is what, I guess, well, not separates us, because it's not about, being better or more than, but, this is what really solidifies why we teach the magic framework, and why we don't really endorse the normalized spirituality around, just set the intention and it's done. It's because the action that you take is the most important. You can
Yeah.
sit there and you can think and you can meditate and you can be all of these things in your head and in that 5D vibrational reality. You can do all of that. But the thing is, we live in this world that's a 3D reality where, if you're not taking the aligned action, if you're not actually being that version of yourself, whether that's, living in joy, whether that's doing something towards your business, whatever it is, if you're not actually doing it, and
Yeah.
that doesn't always mean masculine action. It doesn't always mean, going out there, and we're not here to like endorse the hustle culture. We're here to endorse, like, are you tapping into your higher self? Are you aligning? That aligning is also really important too. Are you aligning with who it is that you're being? And then are you being it? Are you completing that aligned action so that out there in the world, you are a vibrational match, yes, and you're
Mhm.
also taking that next step again and again, so that then those things that you're calling in are then coming to you, but
Yeah.
also by you actively doing it. Because the thing, like, I heard Chris say something the other day, like, it is your God-given right to go out there and manifest. It is your God-given right
Mhm.
to create the things that you desire, but you have to do it.
Yeah, you can't just say, I want this, I want this, I want this, and then expect it to fall in your lap. It doesn't
Yeah.
quite happen like that. It's almost like you have to you have to show the universe that you truly wish to have that particular thing. And
Yeah.
you have to ask your higher self or your superconscious, what are the action steps that will support me
Mm.
getting towards that thing, and listening for those synchronicities and clues to really point you in the right direction. And, like for me this week, I didn't do as much stuff on the podcast as I wanted to. I didn't do a couple of other things I wanted to, but I did what my intuition and my heart wanted to do, which was to finally really get some good work done in my garden and start to really put it all together and tidy it up and feel really good about that. So it was almost like it was a different thing, because a lot of the things I think about when I think about my desired reality are having a place with abundance and being more self-sufficient in terms of growing food and sharing food with others and enjoying that element of what we have available to us as humans, that connection with nature that we've forgotten. um, and yes, I might not be in the place in my dream home and my place I want to do it in the end result, but I can still start to do the things that demonstrate this is what I want in more of in my life by taking action and, planting some seeds and, planning and whatever. That it takes work, but it's rewarding. So it's
Yeah.
not quite what I needed to do, but it grows my confidence and me as a human, and it also aligns with my end vision, if that makes sense.
Well, I think it's exactly what you needed to do. If that's the super conscious guidance, and that's what we really do talk about, and that's what we're so passionate about sharing, is like, it doesn't have to make logical sense. Like, your mind is like, well, I need to do this, this, and this because I committed to it. But super conscious is like, hey, you know, bring the joy back into your life, you know, do the things. Well, here you are, you know, you're recording the podcast and you're talking about the beautiful garden that you created. So, you know, it's like it makes perfect sense in now. But, you know,
Yeah.
when you're in that logical self-conscious mind of like, well, no, I need to get this done because that's what I've said I was going to do. When the intuition drops in and it's like, no, go and garden, you're like, well, but that's counterintuitive, you know,
Yeah.
that goes against what I think I need to do. But our thinking brain can only access our past. You know, superconscious has this beautiful information of everything. So, you know, when we actually allow ourselves, and I really celebrate you for actually just stepping in and doing what your superconscious said instead of, you know, overriding with logic, which
Yeah.
can be so easy to do. You know, we let go of the how, and that's what we teach so much. It's like, well, you can't actually understand the how. If you're going to surrender completely into creation and you're going to really step into magic, and if anyone is unfamiliar with what that is, magic is the 5 steps of creation, which is make a true choice. So, you know, we teach the 4 core choices and then teach tapping into intuition to get true choices as well. And then we align vibrationally by doing that really beautiful active visualization meditation where you go and you teach all levels of your consciousness, all of your senses, what it's like to see, hear, touch, all of that. And then we create the gap because we set that point in the field. This is where I'm going and this is what it feels like and this is my identity and this is everything that is in that point of information of where I'm going. And then we notice where we are now. So we create that gap because, you know, and this is, we teach this a lot, like tension is something that so many of us are so resistant to feeling and experiencing. And I know I've probably shared this on the podcast before, but I share it all the time in my work. I used to hate the word tension so much that I never even set intentions because it felt icky in my body. But now, you know, it's like, I love it. I love tension. I'm the queen of tension, for lack of a better word. Sorry if that's really loud. My mum's phone is ringing.
I just hope you
But
can't hear my dog snoring, to be honest, because she's sitting under the desk and I can just hear her really loudly snoring. So we'll
I
see
can't
if
hear
that
her.
comes out.
I can't hear her, but I can hear a really loud phone. So yeah, without tension, nothing moves. So, you know, like we've made our true choice, we've aligned vibrationally, we're noticing our current reality to create this gap, which really brings, first of all, brings all of our shit to the surface. You know, it's like it brings all our beliefs up, it brings all of our the ickiness up, it brings everything that's I guess out of alignment with where we want to go, brings it up so then we can recode. You know, we really want to
Yeah.
unpack it, investigate it. That's our 4th step. And then the final step is, you know, can you sit in this tension? Can you understand this is where I'm going? This is where I am now. Become detached to your current reality. You know, so many of us are so attached to what it is that we're experiencing now that we continue to collapse reality over and over again in the same way because we say, oh, I am this and I am stuck and I am poor and I am struggling and I am, and we just keep saying, well, this is how it is, this is how it is, this is how it is. So no
Mm.
wonder nothing can change because we just keep speaking it, acting it, and being who we are now again and again and again. But, you know, what we really want to enforce, and it's not about, you know, pretending that the now isn't good enough. Because I think, to go back to your example, Cal, you said, well, I'm not in the home that I, you know, is my desired reality. It's not the biggest vision, but what are all the things that I can do now that feel that way, that are that way? And it's, you know, it's not about waiting and it's not about thinking that life's going to be better then, because it's not. You know, we know that what you must do is be it now, and how you can be it now is bringing as much of that experience that you want in your end result to the now. You know, it's like, you
Yeah.
know, your end result of having this beautiful home and having that garden and being aligned and having community and all of those things. It's like, okay, well, the obvious action now is to create the garden now. It is to connect with the people now. It is to, you know, live a more sustainable and self-sufficient life now.
Mm.
Because when you are it, you can just ask for more.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I was going to go back to another point you said about when we're doing the magic process and we go through that gap analysis and we let all the icky stuff come up that brings us the tension. it's also a way of letting go of that stuff. And when you let go of those things that come up, it allows you to have a clear space to step into the identity more easily of the person that you want to become, the
Mm,
person that aligns with the creations that you have, rather than just saying, oh, this is the way it is, I do it like this, and blah, blah, blah. And I think, yeah, so that's all I wanted to say about that. And there was another thing as well, is when we're talking about taking that aligned action, how important it is. There's an analogy that Mike Dooley uses, and he's the guy that was in The Secret. Um,
mhm,
and he talked about, not that long ago on a podcast, he talked about how you don't just say a declaration of what it is that you want to the universe. And we know as well, it's not just saying what you want, it's feeling what you want, it's feeling the emotions of what that will truly bring you. But you also, you get in the car, yes, you put the sat nav, this is where I'm going in. But until you actually start the car and start moving, you don't get the instructions of where to go next, where to go next, where to go next. And so it's almost like you need to do that with your intuition, with yourself as well. Be more patient. Okay, this is where I want to go. So, but I'm putting myself into gear now. I'm taking that first action that's come to me.
mhm.
And now a new action will come, and then I can go left here or right here or whatever. And maybe there'll be, some warnings. There's a traffic camera ahead or whatever. So it's just, yeah, until you do that, you're not going to get the next steps, the next steps, the next steps that you need to get to that end result. And that tension is where you truly choose to let go of having to know everything, to having to know exactly how you're going to get there, A to Z, blah, blah, blah. That's the tension, isn't it? You're always in the tension of, but how? How will it work? How will I get
Mm,
there? And as soon as
mm,
you just say, it doesn't matter how I get there or not, this is the end result that I want, I'm going to start taking those tentative steps and throw caution to the wind and be like that little fool card, surrendering and jumping on my little journey and see where it goes. So that's all you can do.
yes, yes. I love
That's all you
that. And I
can do.
think that's the thing, especially in, like, if you're still existing in the problem solving reality, which I would say, unless you're in the sisterhood or in something very similar, you are. So many of us get caught up in trying to become who we think we need to be before we start the car.
Mm,
We think, okay, well, let's just say, I want to have this business. So I'm going to try and fix myself into a way that is what I think I need to do before I start. But what we obviously teach so deeply, and what, like surrendering to that becoming, is that the capability happens on the journey. The becoming of who you're meant to be that person, happens on the journey. You have to take that first step first. And so many of us, and I used to be like this too, I used to have such a wound around capability that every single time I'd want to do something, I'd enroll in a new course. I'd enroll in, I need to know more. I need to understand more. I need to figure out more, because from that logical perspective and from my wounded perspective, I always felt like I didn't know enough, or I wasn't enough, or, there was a big thing for me about not being enough. Um, and that really stopped me, especially before I started, this work, magnetic mind work. Um, I Yeah, I was already a wellness mindset, sex and relationship coach, but I just kept doing more qualifications because I need to
yeah.
know more before I'm not qualified enough to teach someone. Like, I don't know how to do that, because that was my wound. And that might not be your wound for whoever's listening, but yours is going to probably show up, in one of those 6 to 9 main identities. Like, I'm not capable, I don't know enough, I'm not perfect, I don't belong, I'm not worthy, I don't know them all off the top of my head right now, which is funny because I haven't taught that in a little bit. But one of
Not
those main
capable.
things, yes, they normally show up in what comes up in us when we start to try to go for what it is that we love. And what we've been taught in personal development and in a lot of modern spirituality and in life and in conditioning is that, well, we must fix that part of ourselves first. And that
Yeah.
doesn't work. Like we were just
No.
talking about, we were just talking about it with you, Kel, in regards to, your home and your garden choice. If you tried to fix that, and if you tried to make sure that you had the house first before you could have the garden and all those things that you've attached to what that looks like, it would be another 30 years before,
Yeah.
like I'm just making that up. Like, of course it's not going to be because you're in creation, you're in creation. But if you're in problem solving, you're going to say, oh, I need to have 100K in the bank so that then I can get my house loan and then I can do this, because your logical brain says that's how it has to happen. It has to happen like
Yeah.
this. And then I need to go and I need to work in my job and I need to save this amount of money and I need to do this and I need to do that. And I need to make sure that all of this is fixed and done and proper. And then, and
Yeah.
we live in
Exactly.
this reality. Yeah, we
That's the
live in
logic,
this
isn't it?
reality of like, yeah, if this happens, then I can have that. But what we teach is choose what it is you bloody love now and live it now in whatever
Yeah.
capacity you have.
Yeah. And just really try to find the joy that you can while you're on the journey rather than waiting for the outcome. Because if you wait
Yeah.
for the outcome your whole life, that is a life wasted. That is a life
Mm.
where you could be living every moment with at least a bit of joy, even if you
Yes.
don't think, oh, this is my end result. Doesn't matter. You still deserve to feel those emotions, that joy every day.
Mm.
And there's one interesting thing that came through for me when I did start to really work on my garden and start all the seedlings off. I did buy some seeds and stuff. I invested a bit of money in it as well. I found then that the other things that I wanted to do more of and really get more in focus of, like, taking my dog out and playing with her and taking her for a nice walk in nature and enjoying being outside, those sort of things fell more naturally to me as well. Whereas before, I had almost let myself be in a stuck place where I was waiting for a solution for something rather than taking action on what I could control within my own small world, I was taking setbacks and stuff and allowing them to control how I put myself forward after. And sometimes you just need to do you and not worry about everything, because some things you can't change immediately, but there are, yeah. Do you know where trying to go with it? I'm
Yes.
just saying it. Sometimes
Yeah.
it snowballs a bit. So you do that, and then you notice that something else comes more easily to you. Whereas before, you might feel stuck, and all of those feelings of, oh, but I don't know how to do this. I need to do this first, and then it causes a great deal of tension that you don't know how to deal with, because you're like, oh, but I don't know how to do the calendar or blah 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 or whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
So you just put off doing that, or even asking someone to help you with it, and you just use it as an excuse not to pursue what it is that you want.
Yeah.
So you've got to do other things that build the trust that you have in yourself and the universe and creation, and so that even just a small step, this small intuitive step of planting a seed or going for a walk in the morning or whatever it is going to, it seems small, but it truly will make things bigger. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yes, it
It's
does.
quite
I've got
late here
two
for
things that
me, so,
I got two things that I want to say on that. It's like the first thing is, instead, I love that you said like finding the joy, and that is so important. And also on top of that, creating the joy. Like not waiting for something to happen for us then to be able to access joy. It's like,
yeah,
like you said, doing the garden, that wasn't just going to happen to you. You know, you had to go out there and you created it. It's like, and one of my favorite things to ask myself, and I love powerful questions, I love them, is like, how can I bring the joy? You know, even for things that feel mundane, even for me, like some of the things that I struggle to do is like normal, just house chores.
Oh, me too.
But I
Yeah.
ask myself, like, how can I bring the joy to this? Because joy, and it might not be your favorite emotion. Maybe, you know, there's something else that you like to feel. But for me, joy is one of, and I think maybe, you know,
Fun.
universally, it's up there. But for me, I like to say, you know, like, how can I bring the joy to this activity? And that looks like, you know, putting on the music and dancing while I'm doing the dishes. And yes, the dishes take probably twice as long as they would, but for me, it's so much more accessible to do them because it feels the way I want to feel.
Yeah,
And that's it. And asking, you know, like asking those powerful questions, you know, what do I, or even if it's not how can I bring the joy, asking like what do I need to think about or feel right now that's going to help me do what I want to do, you know, or
Mm.
need to do. If you want to, if you're still in that mindset of things that you need to do, that's okay. And then the second one is what I noticed when you're speaking about what you were saying, it's about being the identity now, you know, like you were saying, when you started to get in your garden, then it was easier for you to do all the other things because you were her. You know, you're
Yeah.
already being her. You're already in it. Your identity was the woman that you're becoming. And also on top of that, and I think that you can't really separate these, they just intertwine perfectly. It's like your focus was I'm doing it, I'm in it, you know, you were capable. Your focus was, oh look, I've done this garden. So then your
Yeah.
focus then rolls on that, well, like I'm capable, I can do this. My identity is I am capable, I can do this. Then that it just transfers over into everything and all of it because it's not separate. You can't just do something and be in the identity of it and then just leave that there. You've changed. You are no longer the person that you were in that limited identity. You have evolved into this next
Yeah.
aspect of yourself. And it might seem really insignificant, but it's huge.
Yeah, it is. And it's easy. It's such a great example of the work that we do where I could see it happening in real time and
Mm,
how that aligned action does allow for that shift.
yeah.
And it isn't all just about meditating and making sure you're maintaining your spiritual hygiene and all that sort of stuff. Those things are important, but sometimes it's just even like the most simple thing that can really truly bring it more home for you, you know. And that's where the magic happens, is where there's truth in the small things that can truly connect you with the big things that you want, rather
Mm,
than assuming that it has to be very large, grand gestures and hard and complicated. It doesn't. It really, truly is about tapping into your heart and doing what it is that you want that aligns with your grander vision that you have, rather than thinking it
yeah.
has to be complicated. It doesn't. Yes, there is work that you can do to, make yourself feel less heavy or emotionally, whatever problems you're going with mentally. But just doing those one or two actions that builds the confidence in yourself, and the joy can negate the depression or the fog that you feel that you're in, and it just snowballs from there. So I
Yep.
think what I'm trying to say is that it's easier than you think it is, and it doesn't have to be as complicated as you might understand from some people. So does that
Yes.
make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And also, I think on that note, to like kind of bring it full circle, what's coming up for me right now is like so many of us wait to feel good or a certain way before we go and do the activities that we want to do. You know,
Yeah.
like you were saying, you know, if you're in a lower state or a depressed state or whatever you want to call it, people just decide that that's it. And if I'm feeling that way, then I have to do all of these things that I guess let me stay there. And I actually made a little bit of content on this the other day, and it's like, don't wait to feel good to dance. Dance and watch yourself feel good. And it might not be
Yeah.
dance for you, but it's about, it's about tapping into what it is that you desire, getting that obvious action from that place. And if this is making no sense to you, maybe you need to come and join one of our sessions or jump on one of our
Yeah.
freebies, because if you are like actually understanding, and maybe we should do this on a podcast, not today, because I feel like we'll be here
Yeah.
for 8 hours if we do that. But maybe on the next time we chat, Cal, maybe we can actually run through a mini session of what that looks like. Like, can we
Yeah,
workshop
we
and make a
should.
true choice together, align vibrationally, so you understand what that looks like, and you understand what it actually feels like to get that intuitive ping that lands, and then
Mm.
completing that. Not waiting to feel good to complete it, not waiting to feel motivated, not waiting, because that is the obvious action. And when you can start to take that guidance from your superconscious and not be limited or not be dictated by your being, like, I don't know, I like to call it your meat suit, like when the
Yeah.
feelings that are happening in your body and the thoughts that are happening in your mind, when you can detach to a place that you're just witnessing them as feedback. Okay, I feel heavy, I feel low, I feel sad, whatever. My mind is saying, oh, don't do this because blah, blah, blah. When you understand that that's just everything that you've experienced in the past being projected into the now, when you can receive that information that says, okay, the obvious action is, I don't know, go and do a 5 minutes dance party in my kitchen, your mind's going to say, oh, but you don't feel like dancing. And your body's going to feel a bit heavy, especially in the start of this work, when your identity is still really connected to your past. You're not going to want to feel like doing the things that land in your intuition.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
can you teach yourself
You
that
don't.
you are a superconscious being? Can you teach yourself that when the wisdom and the intuition, or whatever you want to call it, the messages from your guides, whatever label feels good for you, can you teach yourself when that lands, you're a follow through person? You're like, okay, I know that there is something, there's the magic in this. Like, let me go and do it and then see what comes from that. And when you start to teach yourself that, oh, that
Mm.
is when that's the chef's kiss. That's when you've
Yeah.
unlocked, the magic. Yeah.
That's when, yeah, that's when things really, that's when the magic starts to happen, and you really start to magnetize what it is you want, because you let go of the layers of shit that have just been holding you back from even taking those one or two action steps. And you
Mm,
could be going through it for ages, understanding your shadow. And it is great to integrate your shadow and to address your emotions, let them come up, let them go, etc. I believe that. But if you constantly keep doing that work, doing that work, doing that work, but not taking any action, then you're
mm,
never going to get anywhere. And you're always going to be stuck in the doing the work and feel like
yeah.
you haven't ever got anywhere. So
Yes.
I feel like it's a two-pronged attack. It's definitely at least a one-pronged attack, because taking the action, feeling the joy, knowing what it is you want to try, and then doing it,
Mm,
is at least getting on the road to where it is you want to go, rather than not doing anything. And
yes.
it's so easy to not do anything and stay as you are, because that's how
Yes.
you've been all your life. So you just, oh, it's always been like this, blah, blah, blah. But we
Yes.
are going through right now, we are going through a huge, fundamental, massive change for humanity, I think. And you can see it all around you. Everything's changing every day. So if now is not the time to change and to start to realize what it is you want in your life, when is? When is?
Yes. Yes.
When
So
is?
true. And I think, just for one more little, I guess, bit of fun on top of that, like, if you are knowing, like, if you've got that wisdom, and I really want to say wisdom, because I was actually on a one-on-one call the other day with a beautiful client, and the difference in information that you receive from when you're sitting in your now reality and you're in your identity of what now is, and you're really attached to, your self-conscious, your logic, the wisdom that comes, well, wisdom, I don't, it's not real wisdom, it's just, I guess, repeating
Yeah,
the past. But
knowing
the information that comes through from there is so different to what comes through from when you attach to where you're going and when you're in the
yeah,
identity and the vibration of that end result. For example, she had just left a job because that was the intuition that came from her future self. That was the action step that came through was, okay, like this isn't aligned. I need to get out of this job. That's not true for me. So she did that, which was awesome. And then her self-conscious said, oh no, you left in a funny way and now people think a certain way of you, and now you've got a fear of judgment. So the obvious
mm,
action now is to go and remedy everything that has happened so that people understand and so that you've left on a good note. And I was like,
oh,
I was with her
that's
and I was
people
like,
pleasing so
yeah.
bad. No
And I said
offense,
to her, I
I'm a
said,
people
okay,
pleaser, but
yeah,
it's
you can witness it. And I said to
yeah,
her, I said, okay, step into your end result. What are you doing? And she's like, okay, I'm with families and I'm connecting mums with kids, and there's like this beautiful this. And I said, okay, now think about what's obvious now. And she said, oh, doing that. And I said, okay, so do you need to worry about how those people in your past that aren't aligned with what it is that you're actually doing? Does it matter how they think of you? And she goes, well, no, it doesn't. And I was like, okay, well,
no,
you've been spending the last week trying to draft emails and make phone calls and do all of this stuff because you decided that the wisdom was that you needed to make this right. And I said, but why are
yeah,
you spending energy on your past? With so many of us do that. We keep trying to spend
we
energy on our
do.
past. We keep trying to fix our past or heal our past or heal relationships from our past so that then maybe it might feel like the way we want it to feel in the future. Focus on your bloody future and focus on taking the aligned actions that create that instead of trying to fix anything, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And it's almost like the way that you describe it, I can, I'm such an overthinker myself. Like I have ADHD, which is why I need to put music on to do housework and stuff too, because I just need that extra boost to do things sometimes. But yeah, the overthinking and worrying so much about what people think, what people will think of me in the future, blah blah blah. And I've been there. I completely understand. And in your logical mind, you're like, oh no, no, I need to make sure I've done this, this, and this, and I'm still a good girl, and I'm still playing by all the rules, and I haven't hurt anyone's feelings. Um, the truth is, they probably haven't thought that much about what you did or didn't do, and even if they did, it doesn't really matter. It's just where are you going next? And as long as you
Yes.
didn't murder anyone or be like a really complete bitch and be nasty, then you haven't done anything wrong at all.
Yeah.
And I think it's because people care so much. They care about other people. They care what people might think of them, that what their reputation might look like. And it's almost like we're taught to have this shame about how we behave sometimes rather than setting the boundaries and choose exactly what we want for ourselves, which is what you
Yes.
tried to do with not going to the races. But then part of your intuition came in and was like, actually, it is good to see. I think it is good to spend time with family as well, because wherever you are on your journey, as long as you're not in a toxic situation, it's still great to connect with them. But
Yes.
it's you know, yeah, I can see why you might not want to.
Yes. Yeah, I
Not
love
the
that.
family,
And I
but go to the races. That is
Yes,
so.
yes.
Yeah,
No, that's fine. Either or, to be honest, sometimes a little bit either or. And I think, when you said like so many of us have been taught to, yeah, prioritize others people's feelings above our own. Um, it's a bit of a global pandemic, to be honest, but or epidemic, whatever you want to call it. It's a global.
yeah.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's definitely a Western society thing. I don't know how the East deals with that stuff, but um,
Mm.
I think
Yeah, definitely
I
women as
guess
well. Women are more
yes,
taught
yes,
to be like that.
yes.
Um,
I guess to
Yeah.
like maybe we're wrapping up here, but to come all the way full circle, like you said, most of the time, probably what you think in your head, the people don't really even care about at all. And second, does it matter? You know, I think asking yourself that question a lot will really start to uncover the truth for you potentially. You know, like I ask myself this a lot in parenthood, and I know that one of my closest girlfriends, this is one of her big messages that she kind of puts out to people that she's inspiring, that so many of us are so wrapped up in how things look or what impact it has on other people, or you know, like the way that we've been raised societally, or what's normal or what's not, and blah, blah, blah. And she said, like, the one thing, just keep coming back to asking yourself, like, does it fucking matter? You know, like,
Yeah. Does it really
you know, like,
matter?
especially for kids, you know, it's like, you know, there's all this stuff, there's so much noise. Like, oh, if they eat this, or if they do that, or if they, you know, if I look like this, or if I'm seen doing this. And she's like, keep coming back to like asking yourself, like, does it matter? And when you really start to come from that angle, it doesn't. And you realize that. And I think, you know, it's like you can start to unravel and take off some of those layers of, performance and people pleasing and the good girl and all of this, because when you start to ask yourself what matters, you start to actually understand, you know, where your values are and what truly is
Yeah.
a priority for you. But I feel like that could be a whole conversation in itself. But I guess, the last thing that I want to say is that when you stop worrying about what people think, and when you stop worrying about how you're going to be perceived, or you know, whatever negative impact your unconscious or your, you know, self-conscious wants to project onto what, you know, you living your truth. My beautiful example from the weekend is that those people that you think probably care in a negative way actually are inspired by you living your truth, and inspired potentially to maybe step a little bit more into there. So, you know, we are
Yeah.
negatively geared. Our unconscious is so negatively geared because that was the experience that we had as a little person. But most of the things that go on in our head, or in our feelings, in our unconscious feelings, well, they're not true. You know, you said that earlier. It's not truth. It's an experience that we experienced as a little person projected onto an adult situation
Yeah.
that isn't true. Um, so I guess my takeaway is that the only thing that's important, and oh god, this is another conversation that I had actually with my teacher from high school, and it was a really beautiful conversation. He said, Bri, what's your philosophy? Like, what do you think matters in life? And his philosophy, he's a science teacher. He really shares, like, nothing matters, you know, like, we're insignificant, we're this tiny little speck of dust in the whole universe. We are so insignificant that nothing matters. And then think about your problems, they matter even less because you're so insignificant. And
Yeah.
I like that because it gives you perspective. But I said, well, my perspective is that we have this, I'm going to come up close a bit higher. We have a heart's truth. And my perspective is that what's important is us living that and being out there. And I don't believe that we're insignificant, because we're here having this beautiful experience. And I think that the only thing that is important is that we live our heart's truth and we live to our fullest. So I guess that's my final
Yeah.
statement. I'd love to hear anything else that you want to say.
No, I agree. And I feel like by living your fullest as yourself and choosing love rather than hate, rather than, being angry, rather than different sides of the pendulum or whatever, that is the way to help other people to realize what their joy is. We don't have to live in fear. We don't have to live in constant pain and worry and anxiety. There are ways around this, and we have all the answers within. So we don't we don't need to be living like that all the time and worried about every single little thing and what Mrs. Jones two doors down thinks of us because we put our washing out when it's barbecue day. I don't know. I've just made that bit up. But do you know what I mean? There's so
Yeah.
many things that we care about. And
I read so many comments on the internet where people just say some really shitty things to each other. And I just think, if you wouldn't say it to anyone in real life, why would you write it here? And
Yeah.
people get so, I'm on the right side, I'm on the right side. And then because they think that they're on the right side, they can then say whatever it is that they like, which are some very disgusting things to the other side. And I just think, no.
Yeah.
Why? Think about
Yeah.
love. Don't think about that hate
Yes.
that you're
Yeah.
just spewing out, which is just adding to the feelings of anxiety and stuff. Anyway, I
Yeah.
think I went off on
Yes.
a
And then
tangent there
now
that's
I'm like,
not
I could go
necessarily
on another.
related. But
That's okay. I was going to say I could go on a massive tangent then, but I'm not going to.
yeah, you know what I'm trying to say? It's just that let's focus on what we can change within our own lives and stop judging other people for living theirs. You know,
Mm.
that's,
Mm.
that's
And
it.
yeah, I think the step one is like, yeah, can we reconnect with our heart? Like, can we actually stop and ask ourselves, like, what do I truly desire? Like, what do I love? How would I want it to be if I could just have it exactly the way that I wasn't? And I know, that's a really interesting question to unpack because, and I'll keep this really short, I know a lot of the women that jump into our sisterhood, the things that they think that they want at the start is not their truth because we are so conditioned and
Yeah,
we are so, I guess, geared towards wanting things that we think that we should want. And then as you start to, recode and those layers start to peel off, you really do start to connect into what's in my heart and what's my truth and how do I want it to be. But, anything is a good start. So if you are, starting to think like, okay, maybe there is something in, what these beautiful women are sharing on this podcast, I guess just asking yourself, like, what do I love? And then, as I said before, next session, we've got our next session sorted, Cal. We're going to run you through a really simple process where you can start to unpack and get those action steps from your higher self. And everyone has it. Don't feel like, oh God, maybe I'm not spiritual enough. No, maybe I'm not this or enough. Like, we'll give you the beautiful little, I guess, bones, for lack of a better word, of how to do that for yourself so that you can start to live more aligned and live your truth. And that's our passion here at the sisterhood, to really
yeah,
start to not only be it, we don't want to just be put up on a pedestal like, oh my God, look at those women, they're doing it. And I feel like maybe that's where I'm at a little bit at the moment, like, from some of the comments that I received on the weekend, it's like, oh, she's doing it, which is so cool. But then we want to gift you guys, whether that's in free stuff, whether that's in our master classes, whether that's when you join the sisterhood, we want to gift you everything. Like, there's no gatekeeping here. We want this to be a global thing. Like, my true
yeah,
choice about creating
absolutely.
this was create this global movement for women living their truth. And
Yeah,
so we want to give you everything that we can so that you can do it, and then also inspire more women to do it, and obviously men too, but we're here to focus on women.
yeah.
Yeah. So I
Everyone's
guess
free to watch our content and enjoy and share.
yes.
It's just obviously our coaching group at the moment is just Superconscious Sisterhood. Maybe in the future we'll have a mixed group or a group for males, but at the moment we don't have that. So I
Yes.
don't know. But if there was
Yes.
call
All
for
right.
it, I'm sure we would think about how that looks.
Yeah, for sure. If that shows up in our land of plenties, in our truth, then that will be it. And if not, then we can have avenues to direct people to places that aligns with them.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it's great to be part of such a wonderful thing. And the people that we have in our group, the women that we have in our group, the things that they share every day, the little breakthroughs of the different processes that we do, it's just a joy to be part of. So it is good. I suppose we should wrap up. So thank you so much if you joined us today. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, you know where we are, and contact us if there's anything else you want to hear us talk about. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Cal.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed our content, then please subscribe or check out our socials. I've been your host, Kelly Robinson, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Take care, much love, goodbye.